AI being used in creative work generally gets a lot of hate. And I can sort of understand why. I think there was even like the Call of Duty Black Ops thing where for one of the loading screens, there were like six fingers or something for like one of the zombies. Um, but I think generally it's the case of when people are playing a creative experience, they want to be in a position where everything feels personalized, it feels good. And I think what sort of happened is that there's been a lot of examples of AI being used badly. And when things don't feel good in games, and especially if people are paid for them, and a lot of the times I think the AI mistakes can be very just sort of sloppy with it and like very obvious. I think that's when, people have every right to be frustrated. Now, that said, I am someone that obviously uses AI for like all of the games that I'm making. So I wanted to use this video just to talk a bit more about where I feel like AI could be going in terms of just how people feel with it. So until recently, I never really searched up AI made games, which is slightly strange considering that I think I've spent like almost 1,000 hours making games with AI. I mean, I use AI for things like coding, images, music, sound effects, and a lot of like the other work that goes for my projects. But I've mostly just been focused on my own games rather than looking at what everyone else is creating. Then, for the first time, literally today, I searched up, games made with AI. And I came across a video of someone that made literally a 3D game in Unreal Engine in a single day with the help of AI. And the result was obviously not a finished, commercial game, but considering the time involved and what he was able to build was genuinely impressive. He was able to literally make landscape, trees, rocks, an unplayable environment. I think, and like the AI actually helped generate it. Like, it's really, really cool to watch. And like for me, I think just I've always found AI being very cool with things because if I can take an idea of something which I'm interested in, I think is cool, and I can get AI to help me implement it, like that for me just makes sense. Right. And I think there were just even parts of that process in the video, which I think, I'll genuinely look at in terms of the future games. But I also know that someone else could watch the exact same video and have a completely different reaction. They might see it as low effort, they might worry about all sorts of things involving it as well. And I think all of these concerns are worth acknowledging. But then I keep coming back to the same question. What do people actually care about when they play games? I know for me, when I'm playing games, I'm really caring about the experience. Does it create the experience that I want? If I'm playing a zombie game, I want to know, does it create that atmosphere? If I think of a zombie game in my head or what it would be like in a zombie apocalypse, does it help me, simulate that experience? One of the games I enjoy playing is Project Zomboid. Arguably, in my opinion, one of the best zombie games I've played. It just works really well. Now, if someone had told me, right now, I don't think they've actually used any AI, but if that game were made with loads of AI or no AI, I really wouldn't care, right? Because if it creates the experience, then that's what matters to me. And I think this is, I believe, is what we could be looking at seeing moving forward, where I think as people get better with making games with AI and creating good experiences, I think that's where people will probably care less. Sure, like the funny thing is like it's far more heroic, in my opinion, to hear that someone spent 3 to 5 years, doing everything themselves and making this, game and spending tons of time. That's obviously far more heroic than, for example, someone making, a game entirely using AI within, 6 to 7 months or something, right? I get that. But again, what really matters is the experience, right? You can have a game that spent, years and years by a single individual that used no AI, and that can still go badly. However, on the same regard, you can have people that make AI games fairly quickly in comparison, but they can still do either well, but they can also not do very well. I think the other thing people will obviously worry about is if AI games will flood the market and whatever. And to that regard, honestly speaking, yeah, okay, a lot of games are going to be able to come out a lot easier. But at the same time, if the games aren't good, or matter of fact, if the games are bad, They're going to get negative reviews and they're not going to get played or bought as much. So I really don't see the issue. I just see AI as a way of giving more people opportunities to make the game that they've always wanted to make. Like for me, um, Scarred Steel, my first game, was inspired by a game called Heads Will Roll Reforged. I used AI to make that game. I started off with ChatGPT and then ended up picking up other tools along the way and was able to make it. And I'm pretty happy with Scarred Steel. And for Primus, the game I'm currently making at the moment, that's inspired by Darkest Dungeon, the dungeon crawler. And I'm basically, inspired by that and I'm using that for Primus. And likelihood is the games I make in the future are all going to be inspired by things that I enjoyed playing that I wanted to make better, right? And I think that is where AI can really help. I think I'm finding that AI can make it much easier to produce things that can help someone create code, artwork, music, entire environments much faster than they would have ever been able to do before. But producing more things does not automatically mean producing something good. A game can contain hundreds of generated assets and ideas and systems and still have no clear direction. It can have an enormous world and still feel empty. It can technically be impressive and still not be enjoyable. And I think the difficult part of making a game is not only creating the individual pieces, but it's also deciding what should exist, what should be removed, and how everything should fit together, and what experience the player is supposed to have. And I've had this experience with Primus, where there's already been tons of things that I've already gone and deleted because I got far too ahead of myself. Like I was, for my dungeon crawler game, I was looking at adding dialogue systems, ways you could interact with other sort of factions in the game. And generally speaking, just far too much, at least for a demo, first and foremost. And that is the difficult thing, I think, with AI, where just because you can make it and implement it doesn't always mean that you should. Because AI can help me build things, but I still need to decide what game I'm trying to make. I can still, I still have to play it. I still need to notice what feels wrong and change things and work out, obviously, whether the game is actually fun. And I think this is where the conversation about AI games can become a bit too simple, right? People sometimes talk about a game as if it's either completely human made or completely AI made. But in reality, there is a huge range between those 2 points. One developer might have used AI for, small coding problems, other might have used it for just about everything. And my goal with Primus is not just to prove AI can generate a lot of things. I want to actually make a game that people enjoy. I want the combat to feel good. I want the atmosphere to work. And I want the game to create the experience that I have in my head. And if I release it and the game is not good, then the fact that it was made with AI is not really going to be an excuse. It would just still mean that I failed to actually shape or use the tools into something worthwhile. And the matter of fact is I'm just working on projects right now, and ideally, as I build stuff over time, things should, in my opinion, get better. But we'll have to see. So will AI games and usage of AI within games, will that be hated forever? I don't think so. I think it obviously can damage a lot of trust, which is completely fair. And this is also why, like, I'm being very open of my usage with AI. Like, I'm not trying to hide it. And basically, my view on it is, look, if people want to play my game or my games that I make in the future, play the demo first. If you like the demo, then you might like the full game. That's all I can say. And to anyone that is considering making games with AI, please have a demo. That's going to be probably the best way for you to, break any sort of, controversy or worries about what the game's going to be like. So that's what I will say. But I think as well is that developers that will use AI are going to have to earn their trust. Right. I think if well, and look, I'm not a real developer by any means, but if you were someone which, had been properly, developing a game, not using any AI, and you've been working on a game for years, there's going to be a lot of trust around what you do and that what you're doing is going to be ideally better perceived. But for someone like me or other people that are using AI, or for me who's using AI for lots of things, like obviously people like me are going to have to earn a lot of trust, right? And so this is why, at least for me, I'm just focusing on making projects, getting things out, ideally getting people to play games, and then from there, going from there. But I think just the overall verdict is that if the game is good and if it feels right, no matter the amount of usage of AI, I don't think it matters. But that's sort of what I think. If you have different opinions or thoughts, let me know, but I'll chat soon.